Hello, and welcome to my rock and roll encounter. I have chosen to do the country song Meanwhile Back at Mama's by Tim McGraw, featuring his wife Faith Hill in his 2014 album called Sundown Heaven Town. And it was actually written by Jeffrey Steele, Tom Douglas, and Jaron Johnston. And as a girl growing up, I listened to so much Tim McGraw. He was my go-to. So that is why I've chosen this song. And I grew up in the South and many other states, which is why I don't have much of an accent. But this song feels so nostalgic. It's hard to describe, but I feel like this song is very applicable to a college assignment because I feel like a lot of college kids can relate to the feeling of nostalgia because it's hard to be away from home. Like, it's fun sometimes, but a lot of reality kicks in when you're having to pay bills and live for the first time without someone taking care of you. And so it really shows us all the things we took for granted and really can idealize the simple things. And I feel like the song encapsulates that feeling. So um, another side note, this song also reminds me of another song called The House That Built Me by Miranda Lambert, and it gives that familiar storyline of going home again. And after doing some research, I actually found that Tom Douglas helped write that song as well. So it was kind of cool to see that connection and see that maybe that's why there's such a familiarity between the songs. So, yeah. Unfortunately, after many failed attempts, many moments where I thought I had gotten it figured out, technology got the best of me, and I have not been able to incorporate the song into the video. So I will still be describing the song to you, but unfortunately, I cannot get it pulled up, and I've tried to have the computer listen to it, and unfortunately, it's just very, very old computer, and so it does not take that sound well, and it just sounds awful. So to spare you from that, I ask that you pull up the song and on any platform and listen along as I explain it, and that way you can get the whole feel of this song. And yeah, so I'll still explain it to you and tell you all these details about this music, but unfortunately I will not be playing it for you, so please pull it up. And we're going to start with the introduction. It is 22 seconds long, and it introduces the major key, and I believe he uses the major key to incorporate a more pleasant sound of like having pleasant memories of home and having those feelings of like longingness and more pleasant than sad. So that's why he chose major. And the intro immediately starts with a simple duple drumming pattern, which is quickly followed by the guitar, which initiates a specific, unique finger-picked tune pattern, which I don't know why, but to me it's the sound of nostalgia, and it just sounds like an old country song that you listen to when you miss home. So yeah, and around 12 seconds into the song, a new guitar joins in, and it's almost as if it's strengthening the sound, as if preparing a foundation for McGraw to start singing. 22 seconds into the song, McGraw starts singing, and notice how the guitar simplifies and the background guitar starts playing longer chords that are more supporting, and the drumming pattern stays pretty consistent, and no other instruments have joined. And I believe that he did this to give the song a sense of simplicity, which adds to the message of going back to simpler times. The lyrics introduce the current state that McGraw is in the song of like constantly running, being in debt, too much on his shoulders, not having a moment to breathe. And it's something that a lot of us can relate to with work, school, and other aspects of our life. And then at the end of that verse, he gives us a little reminder of like where we used to be, where he used to be, and he uses the words, "Because where I come from, only the horses run, and when the day is done, we take it easy." And it gives that feeling of like missing how things used to be, and the nostalgia I mentioned earlier, just being like, oh my gosh, like things used to be so much easier, and we could breathe before, but now we're just go, 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 go. And that leads into our chorus. So the chorus is 55 seconds into the song, and it doesn't start like as if he's going home. It's as if he's transported home. And he gives a sense of like how things used to be, as if he just like time traveled there. And he uses a lot of imagery words to paint a picture of what would happen on a typical day, like supper, his dad drinking, and the sunset, and doing his work and everything. And it just shows appreciation for the things he'd never realized he'd miss, you know? Like just the little things. And notice when you're listening to it how the dynamics increase only a little bit and the instruments stay relatively the same. Um, this continuation of simplicity enhances the importance of the message rather than technique. Because sometimes when you have so much technique going on, like it's so cool to listen to that you forget to listen to the words. And so Tim McGraw wants us to really hear what he's saying and listen to the message, so he keeps it simple. And I think that's very smart. And after this chorus, it leads into an instrumental break, which sounds pretty similar, almost exactly as the introduction, which to me, my own interpretation of it is as if he's like going back into reality, because we transported back to his home, right? And then that introduction brings us to the next verse, or that instrumental break brings us to the next verse, and it's back into reality. So we'll talk about that. 1 minute and 29 seconds into the song, verse 2 starts, and again the guitars and drums continue in the same pattern introduced in the first verse, bringing back that simplicity and storytelling base. He talks about how he found a girl that he wants to spend his life with, and how even though they found each other, they still felt that need to go home. They felt like claustrophobic in the city life that they'd been living in, and they were both small town people, and they just both were aching to go back to that small town life. And now, like, the need isn't just with Tim McGraw, it's with this girl that he's sharing this dream with. And at the end of that verse, it says they dream about packing up and just leaving the city. And I actually used this picture on the slideshow because that's Tim McGraw and his wife, Faith Hill, and that's who is singing. And I think it's cool how she doesn't join in singing until after this verse when he introduces the girl. So he's technically introducing Faith Hill into the song through this verse, and then we'll actually hear from her in this next chorus, 1 minute and 42 seconds into the song, and it's the same lyrics as the first chorus, but now Faith Hill is harmonizing and singing with McGraw, and they're talking about how they both want to go home, and like they're talking about all their memories of like small town vibes and all the things they took for granted. And I think that's a really cool addition of her, and it kind of increases the longing that they're both feeling, because now it's not just him, it's two people. They're like, okay, we just need to go. We have made it to the last part of the song with the bridge and the last chorus. So 2 minutes and 26 seconds into the song, we start off on a higher note, which brings us into the bridge. And I think the higher note is an interesting addition because all the other choruses and verses have started on a lower note, but this one, after explaining like that build up of like, hey, we need to go home, we're missing home, now there's two people wanting to go home, and now it's a higher note, and so it increases that anxiety. And then the bridge just talks about all the things they miss. It adds more that the chorus didn't talk about, and it just gives that feeling of just growing stronger and stronger, like, okay, we need to do something about this. And so then at the very end of the bridge, it ends on a lower note, which gives a sense of resolution because it says it's time to head on back. So they're deciding, okay, it's time. We're done with this crazy life of not being able to breathe. We're tired of being claustrophobic. It's time to head on back. Finally, the last chorus has the same tune as the original choruses, but entirely different lyrics. And it just shows that they finally made that decision, and now it's showing how he's following through with that decision. So he's saying that the house went up for sale, he's selling his truck that he was in debt with anyways, and he's taking a loan, he's buying the house, and they're going. It's time. And I kind of love how he added that of like, you know what? Like, it takes work, but it's worth it. It's worth going where you feel at home. And it's a satisfying end that teaches us that sometimes it's the little things that mean the most. And it's easy to forget that when you're chasing money and status. But honestly, like, in the end, you need to feel like you're safe and that you're at home, and that song brings that feeling back to us. It's just a reminder of what's important. And then we have a little pause. You can hear the guitars like holding out a little bit, but I believe this pause is very purposeful because it kind of adds like a little punch, a little like a pause for effect, because it leads to we just heard a powerful message of going back home, and it gives us a moment to just process what we just heard, the lyrics we just internalized, and it facilitates pondering and longing. And then he ends it off with me and you back in Mama's, and then Faith Hill joins him in singing me and you back in Mama's, and it just gives that fading out feeling. And it creates this fading out feeling through the drums stopping first at 3 minutes and 34 seconds, and then a few seconds later, the guitars resolve together and then fade out, and it almost feels as if it's like a long distance memory or longing feeling that it leaves us with. And when you listen to it, just don't play anything afterwards. Just let it sink in, and you'll really feel that nostalgic feeling that I'm talking about. When I think about this song, this picture is a almost perfect representation of what home is to me. I grew up by bodies of water and forests, and you can't really see it, but there's a little porch on there with some chairs, and I can just already hear the frogs and the crickets and the birds and just all the little animals rustling around, and to me that's home. And so in my head, when I hear this song, I imagine this picture, the sunset and everything. And I think it's cool how each person has their own interpretation of what home is. And this song brings that out for everybody. So you're probably thinking of probably an entirely different kind of home than I would think of. And yet this song is still applicable to you as well. And so I think it's cool how he's able to bring that remembrance of home and family and what's really important to everybody, even though everybody has a different background. And I absolutely love this song. I hope you got to know it a little bit more today, and I really hope you actually listen to it because it is good. And thank you so much for joining me on this little rock and roll encounter. And I hope you have a good rest of your night. Thank you.